2018 from Hello, my name is Beck. Today I'm going to be talking about the mid-year book Freakout tag and talking about the books that I've read in January to June this year. The best book I've read so far this year, I actually read in January, and that was Morning Star by Pierce Brown. It's the third book in his Red Rising saga. It was amazing. It was really hard to pick Morning Star because I've also tied it with a couple of other books. One of them is The Alloy of Law by Brandon Sanderson. It's actually his second era of Mistborn books, but it's the first one in that second series, if that makes any sense. And the other book is Crooked Kingdom, which is the second book in the Six of Crows duology by Leigh Bardugo. The best sequel I've read so far are the same as my first answer. But actually I read Obsidio, which is the third book in the Illuminae Files series, and that's by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff, and it's a sci-fi series. A new release that I haven't read yet but really want to is Warstorm by Victoria Aveyard. I actually haven't read King's Cage yet, even though I loved the first two books so much. Red Queen is one of my absolute favourite YA fantasy series. My most anticipated releases for the second half of the year both got moved to 2019. So one of them was Dark Age by Pierce Brown and the other one was Dark Dawn by Jay Kristoff. But a book that is actually coming out this year is Escaping from Houdini, and I really can't wait to read that. My biggest disappointment this year would probably be a middle grade book called Rebel Genius, and it's by one of the co-creators of one of my favourite cartoons ever, Avatar: The Last Airbender, and he wrote this fantasy book. The reason I didn't love it was because it didn't really work as a written novel. The written novel kind of fell flat, unfortunately, and I would have loved to see it as a cartoon because I feel like visually it would come across a lot better. The biggest surprise that I've read this year would be Clean by Juno Dawson. It's a YA contemporary, surprisingly, and I don't read a lot of contemporary, I'm more of a fantasy person. But this book is centred around drug addiction, and it's about the main character who goes to a facility to get clean. Favourite new to me author is Sebastian de Castell, who's surprised. I'm reading this series at the moment on audiobook and I'm absolutely loving it.
Reading it on audiobook?
Yes. Probably my favourite fictional crush, I guess, if you can call it a crush, I just love the character, is Thomas Creswell from Stalking Jack the Ripper, that series. One of my favourite characters that I've discovered this year is Wayne from the second era Mistborn series. He's actually incredibly funny and you don't expect him to be quite clever when he actually is. One of the books that made me cry actually is a manga instead of a book, and that's Fruits Basket by Natsuki Takaya. I want to say why it makes me cry, but it's also kind of spoiler territory, but the main character has such dynamic relationships with all of the characters that she meets, and the beats in the story really hit your heart, and it's absolutely beautiful. A book that made me really happy was 1,000 Perfect Notes by C.G. Drews. It's a contemporary story about the sweetest cinnamon roll named Beck, and he's just wanting to protect his sister from their abusive mother. The most beautiful book that I've bought this year, I actually bought early this year in February, and it's Iron Gold by Pierce Brown. It's a pretty edition from Goldsboro Books and it has red sprayed edges. The books I need to read by the end of the year, I am prepared for this question. On my phone notes I've actually got a list of books that are unread on my shelf and I want to read this year. So some of them are Elantris by Brandon Sanderson, and Arcanum Unbounded by Brandon Sanderson, and The Arithmetist by Brandon Sanderson. Two of Mary Lou's books in her Young Elites trilogy, so The Rose Society and The Midnight Star, which I am way behind on reading, and The Lunar Chronicles as well, but I've read the first book, I just need to finish the series. I've also got Blood Song by Anthony Ryan and a contemporary called Summer Skin by Kirsty Eagar to read as well. At the time of filming this video, I've actually already read 67 books this year, so I'm hoping to get to 100, maybe even 120, so I can't wait to fit all of these books in because I'm super excited to read them. And that's the end of the mid-year book Freakout tag. If you want to be tagged, I tag you. If you want more information, I'll link my blog below. I've posted there as well, and I'll catch you in my next video. Bye!